Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay, and Palmolive Shave Creams for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks, under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, her salary as a teacher covers all her basic expenses, but our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, has discovered that there are certain luxuries it won't pay for.
Luxuries like clothing, for instance. However, last Monday, I dropped into Madame Amelia's dress shop to price some of the items she was featuring in a post-Easter sale. In no time at all, I discovered that if Madame Amelia would let me pay for it on time, I could easily afford the sales tax on her cheapest dress. But thanks to a proposition Madame made to me, I did leave the store with 4 new dresses. At breakfast Friday morning, my landlady commented on one of them.
Another day, another dress. It's a beauty, Connie.
Thanks, Mrs. Davis.
You've no idea what it's been like to sit opposite you during this past week. Every day a new dress that looks like the first breath of spring.
Glad you like them, Mrs. Davis.
But I wish you'd cheer up a little. Your dress looks like the first breath of spring, and your face looks like the last gasp of winter. What's the trouble, Connie?
Well, you know the agreement I have with Madame Amelia, don't you?
Why, yes. She said she'd give you a brand new suit free of charge if you'd introduce some of her clothes into Madison High School this week.
I wasn't only supposed to introduce them, Mrs. Davis. There was also supposed to be an increase in business.
But since you've been wearing the dresses, hasn't business increased?
25% at DuBarry's across the street.
That's ridiculous. The jump at DuBarry's is just a coincidence. You deserve the dress anyhow. Look at the work you've done. How many other teachers would want to wear a brand new dress to school every day?
I don't know. How many teachers are there in the United States? No, I'm afraid I haven't lived up to my part of the bargain. As a matter of fact, our agreement officially terminated last night. I was supposed to return the dresses then.
But you're wearing one of them this morning.
I just couldn't face my old blue jersey suit for at least one more day. Besides, I figured after all this time, somebody's bound to notice me.
You mean no one's paid any attention to your new outfits so far?
Well, I did get some encouragement yesterday. I'd been sitting opposite Mr. Boynton at lunch for 3 days in a row, and each day I had a new dress on. Yesterday, he finally noticed something different about me.
What did he say?
He said, "Miss Brooks, you've got some eraser dust on your neck." Of course, a few of the female members of the faculty admired the dresses, but they're evidently too poor to do any buying.
How about your principal, Connie? Did he comment on the transformation?
Mr. Conklin hasn't commented on anything but his newest economy drive.
Another one? But he just ordered a big cutback in school expenses last month.
That came from the Board of Education. This is his own idea, and you ought to see him enforce it. Why, I broke a pointer the other day while he was in my classroom, and before it even hit the floor, he had snatched up the short piece and filed down the rough edge.
Then what did he do with it?
He gave it to a teacher with long arms. Oh, he's a beauty, all right. That's Walter Denton. Be right there, Walter. I've got to run, Mrs. Davis. Thanks for breakfast.
You're welcome, dear. And don't look so discouraged about the deal with Madame Amelia. You've still got today to put it over.
I'll try.
Just remember this, Connie. Whether it's modeling or anything else, you only get out of something what you put into it.
Believe me, Mrs. Davis, everything I've got I've put into this dress. Please, Walter, keep your eyes on the road. What in the world are you staring at, anyway?
Just the most scintillating vision in the world.
Huh?
I wish I didn't have to drive at all. I wish I could just sit here and drink you in all your intoxicating loveliness.
Well, hand me a mirror. I'd like to get high, too. Honestly, Walter, this flattery is overwhelming.
Oh, it's only your due, Miss Brooks. Gosh, I've always admired you personally, but the way you've looked this last week makes the way you used to look positively hag-like.
I should have quit when I was ahead.
The dress you've got on today's a knockout, Miss Brooks. What are those colors in it?
They're chartreuse and cerise, Walter.
They are?
Of course, those are the fancy names. Actually, these colors are nothing but good old, down-to-earth, plain and simple puce and magenta.
Well, whatever they are, the way you've been dressing the last few days has had eyes popping all over the school.
That's funny. I haven't heard a thing.
Are you kidding? Why, half the female members of the faculty look like Eddie Cantor. Of course, I'll admit it took everybody a few days to start noticing your new wardrobe, but I think I have the answer for that.
Oh? What is it?
Well, it's because everyone has seen you in that blue jersey suit of yours for such a long time. It got so that after a while, nobody ever looked below your face. Don't you think that hits it right on the nose?
It sure does. Got a Kleenex? Oh, I am glad that somebody's finally noticing these outfits. I wouldn't be human if I wasn't.
Oh, don't you worry about that. You're human, all right.
Thanks for the affidavit.
Harriet told me you got the outfits at Madame Amelia's.
Uh-huh.
I told my mother about them last night, and she said she must be a wonderful dressmaker.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, my mother said she wants to visit the place herself, but she was wondering when would be a good time.
What is she doing yesterday? I mean, anytime's all right, I guess.
Oh, before I forget, Miss Brooks, when I spoke to Harriet on the phone this morning, she said to tell you to please stop at her dad's office as soon as you get to school.
Uh-oh. It's probably in connection with this new economy drive of his. I extravagantly requisitioned a new eraser last week.
Isn't this drive a pain? He's even cutting down on our athletic equipment. Here we got a big track meet coming up, and he won't provide any high hurdles for the guys to practice on. All we got is the old low hurdles.
Oh, that isn't an insurmountable problem, Walter.
What do you mean?
All you have to do is put up the low hurdles and let the boys run on their knees.
Who is it, and is your business urgent?
It's Miss Brooks, and it can wait indefinitely. Bye.
Not so fast. Come in, Miss Brooks.
Now then, I'll come right to the point. The reason I wanted to... Miss Brooks, isn't that another new dress you have on?
Yes, sir.
Really remarkable. Miss Brooks, may I ask you a question?
Certainly, sir.
Are you able to dress this way on your salary, or have you come into an inheritance?
No, sir.
No, sir, what?
No, sir, Mr. Conklin. I mean, I haven't come into an inheritance.
But these new clothes, how do you pay for them?
Well, you see, sir,
You
it's
don't gamble, do you?
Really... Oh, no, sir.
Well, I don't want to pry into your personal life. After all, you've worn that blue jersey job long enough. Suffice it to say that in the past week you've given the rest of the faculty something to shoot at.
The dresses can't be that bad.
On the contrary, they're very smart. But to get back to the reason for your being here, as you know, Miss Brooks, I am in the midst of a new economy drive here at Madison.
Oh, I know, Mr. Conklin. Mr. Boynton and I discussed it thoroughly at lunch yesterday.
Oh, then you're beginning to feel the pinch.
Certainly not. All we ever do is talk. Yes, sir. I'm afraid everyone's feeling the pinch.
Well, believe me, it's a necessary measure in these parlous times. Mr. Stone, the head of the school board, is coming over to my home this afternoon for tea. Naturally, I'm interested in impressing him with the strides we've made at Madison.
Naturally.
And it has occurred to me that an excellent way to convince him of the wisdom of my economy policy is to show him what a teacher such as yourself can do on a limited budget.
Me?
Yes, Miss Brooks. If you'd come to our home this afternoon, my wife and I would be most pleased to see you. In one of your new dresses, that is.
Well, that's very nice, Mr. Conklin, but
Oh,
I...
and since it's a bit late for her to pick up anything, would you consider lending Mrs. Conklin one of your other new creations? Just for the day, of course.
Well, Mr. Conklin,
I
it's
don't
like
want you
this.
to think that this is a command performance, Miss Brooks, but you will be there at 4, won't you?
Yes, sire. Sir.
Excuse me. Principal's office. Who? Oh, she's in my office right now. It's for you, Miss Brooks. Be brief, please.
Yes, sir. Hello? Who is this? Madam who? Oh, yes, I know last night was the last... Yes, but I just have them back today. Very well. As quickly as possible. Goodbye. Well, if you'll excuse me, sir, I'd better be getting into class.
Nothing wrong, is there?
Wrong? Oh, what could be wrong? I just don't want to be late. You know how hungry my pupils are for learning.
Starved is the word. Well, you'll be at my house at 4 sharp, Miss Brooks. Is that correct?
Mr. Conklin, I'll be there with bells on, if nothing else.
Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream. It cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate toothpaste.
Cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate Dental Cream cleans your breath while it cleans your teeth. And the Colgate way stops tooth decay best. Yes, the Colgate way is the most thoroughly proved and accepted home method of oral hygiene known today. Over 2 years' research showed brushing teeth right after eating with Colgate Dental Cream helps stop more decay for more people than ever before reported in dentifrice history. The Colgate way stopped tooth decay best. No other dentifrice, ammoniated or not, offers such conclusive proof. And you should know that Colgate's, while not mentioned by name, was the only toothpaste used in the research on tooth decay recently reported in Reader's Digest. So always follow the Colgate way to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and stop tooth decay best.
Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream. It cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
And the Colgate way stops tooth decay best.
Well, by lunchtime, I had almost decided to confess to Mr. Conklin that I didn't really own any of the Madame Amelia dresses. But before making that decision, I thought I'd discuss it with Mr. Boynton. When I arrived at the school cafeteria, I purchased my lunch and had just sat down to a table when who should come walking by but Mr. Boynton himself. Naturally, he stopped immediately.
Sorry, Miss Brooks. I didn't see your foot there in the aisle.
Oh, forgive me, Mr. Boynton. I didn't mean to trip you so hard. I hope your lunch isn't all wasted.
Oh, no, Miss Brooks. Luckily, my salad landed right side up, and my hamburger landed on my salad.
Well, here's a napkin. You landed on your Jell-O.
Thanks.
Let me help you pick up your dishes.
Gosh, that was a strawberry Jell-O I sat in. Does it look terribly messy, Miss Brooks?
No, not at all, Mr. Boynton. In fact, it's rather attractive. I bet when you walk down the school steps, you'll look just like a sunset. But, Mr. Boynton, there's something I'd like to ask you.
Oh, before you do, Miss Brooks, I'd like to pop a question to you first. Of course, it might be considered quite personal, but with your permission, I'll pop it anyway.
If you're going to pop the question, I've been waiting for you to pop. Pop away, Pop.
Miss Brooks, that dress you've got on, isn't that another new one?
Why, Mr. Boynton, you've been paying attention after all. Do you like it?
Oh, very much. It's a very interesting shade. Yellow, isn't it?
Just where the butter landed when you dropped your tray. It's mostly chartreuse, Mr. Boynton.
Well, it's very exciting. Almost identical in shade to the skin of a young frog. This is the third or fourth lovely new dress you've put on this week. How do you do it, Miss Brooks?
I just drop them over my head and pull up the zipper.
Of course, I was very fond of your blue jersey suit, too. It held a sort of sentimental attraction for me. You know, that's the suit you were wearing when we met.
Yes, 4 years ago.
Well, I must admit I wasn't too crazy about it at first, but, well, it really grew on me.
Me, too. I had quite a time chiseling it off last Monday. But about those new dresses, Mr. Boynton,
Miss Brooks, the fact that you were able to acquire such garments on a teacher's salary is extremely commendable.
Well, thank you, Mr. Boynton, but...
Now, I've always admired a woman who can budget herself properly. A woman who can do that could be a real asset to a man.
She could?
A man could hunt for such a woman for years and years.
4 of them, to be exact.
With a clever and thrifty companion, there's no telling how far a man could go.
Go. Continue, Mr. Boynton.
Well, to sum up my feelings in the matter, I can only say that this type of woman is downright marriage timber. Now, I'm serious, Miss Brooks. Seeing you in these new outfits has opened my eyes, and, well, there's something I'd like to say to you.
Pardon me, Miss Brooks, but I've got to talk to you for a minute.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, Walter, what is it?
I'm not interrupting anything, am I?
Just my future. What can I do for you?
Well, there's a delivery truck outside from Madame Amelia's dress shop. The driver says you've got 4 dresses to send back.
To send back?
Yes, it's just a temporary measure, Mr. Boynton.
You mean the dresses are all going to be altered, Miss Brooks?
No, Walter. Like I said before, just my future.
Hi, Miss Brooks. Heading for Daddy's office?
Yes, I am, Harriet.
I just left him. I've never seen Daddy in such excellent humor, Miss Brooks. He's sure that your new gowns will make a big impression on Mr. Stone this afternoon. In fact, he said that your little visit this morning was like a tonic to him.
Wait till he hears the Mickey I've got for him now. I'm afraid I won't be able to come to tea this afternoon.
Won't be able to come? But why not, Miss Brooks? And where's the gorgeous Madame Amelia dress you had on this morning?
In a delivery truck on Main Street.
But I don't understand. You're wearing your old blue jersey again. Where did you get that?
Out of a bundle I had ready for the Salvation Army. It's a long and gruesome story, Harriet, but I had to send the dresses back. You see, I never really owned them. I was just modeling them for Madame Amelia. If business increased, she said she would give me a free one, but it didn't, so she didn't, and I'm back where I started last week. Shall we dance?
Well, don't look so desperate, Miss Brooks. All isn't lost.
Then where is it?
You're going to love me for this. I was so captivated by those new gowns of yours that during your English class, I secretly sketched 2 of them. Then I took the patterns to home economics class, and we've spent the past couple of days making exact copies.
What?
I know you promised to lend one to Mother, so it'll work out just perfectly. Of course, we made them out of ersatz material, but beggars can't be choosers. And after all, the main thing is not to disappoint Daddy.
But don't you think your father and Mr. Stone will notice the difference?
Of course not, Miss Brooks. When it comes to dresses, women have been pulling the wool over men's eyes for years. Well, Miss Brooks, what do you think of my idea?
To tell the truth, Harriet, it's not bad.
I'm glad we got home ahead of Daddy, Miss Brooks. It gave me a chance to reinforce some of the weak places in this dress. Now, stand still while I pin this basting in back. Where are the pins I asked you to hold?
I've got them in my mouth, Harriet. Help yourself.
Your mouth? Why, that's no place to put pins.
Ouch! Neither is that.
Sorry. We've got to hurry, though. I heard Daddy and Mr. Stone go into the living room about 5 minutes ago.
I must admit you copied the style of Madame Amelia's dress perfectly, Harriet. But tell me, what kind of material did you use?
Well, we started with rayon, and when we ran out, we used muslin.
Some of it feels like cheesecloth to me.
Oh, it's loaded with cheesecloth. But don't worry, Miss Brooks. The way I've got it basted, no one can possibly tell the difference.
I'll bet your mother will tell the difference when she puts hers on.
Well, frankly, Miss Brooks, I haven't had a chance to tell her it's a copy. I just left it on her bed when she was getting the tea ready and then rushed back here to you.
What? You mean to tell me your mother doesn't know there's nothing between her and a life of shame but some cheesecloth and a fervent prayer?
Gee, I never thought of it that way. If Mother bends over or sits down too quickly, we're sunk.
We're sunk. Your mother won't be in such good shape either.
You've both got to be very careful. I tell you what I'll do, Miss Brooks. If I see anything beginning to go, I'll give you a verbal signal.
A verbal signal?
Yes. Since we'll be having tea, I'll just say something like, sugar and cream, Miss Brooks, or pass the lemon. Now, come on. Everybody's waiting for your personal appearance.
With the wrong kind of a break, this can be the most personal appearance I've ever made. But mine not to reason why. Lead on, Harriet.
Right in here, Miss Brooks. Well, here we are, Daddy.
So you are. You know my daughter Harriet, Mr. Stone.
Certainly. Hello, Harriet.
How do you do, sir?
And Miss Brooks. Well, that is an attractive dress you have on.
Thank you, Mr. Stone.
I've been telling Mr. Stone about the wardrobe you've acquired recently, Miss Brooks. It certainly gives impetus to an economy drive when a teacher can do what she's done, eh, Mr. Stone?
Very impressive, Conklin.
And thanks to the way I manage my personal budget, Mrs. Conklin has been able to enhance her wardrobe recently. She's probably jumping into her new duds right now.
I don't advise it. Oh, I see she's left the tea right here on this table. May I act as temporary hostess?
Please do.
I'd love some tea, Miss Brooks. Sugar and cream, please.
So soon?
I'll pour it for him, Miss Brooks. You stand still.
Well, hello, everyone.
Hello, Mrs. Conklin. Happy to see you again. Say, that's a stunning dress you have on.
Yes, you look positively ravishing, my dear. Stand just as you are. Don't move a muscle.
Yes, hold it for about 45 minutes.
I don't believe I've ever seen you looking lovelier, Martha. You and that gown are a match that was made in heaven.
Oh, now, Osgood. Honestly, Mr. Stone, sometimes when Osgood pays me a compliment, he gets so extravagant with his praise, I could just split.
You're holding the wrong thought, Mrs. Conklin. And may I pour you some tea?
Oh, thank you, dear, but I can pour it myself. Bending over is good for me.
Oh, but you mustn't bend, Mother. Here, I'll get you a cup.
Oh, I'd rather do it myself, Harriet. After all, the more one bends over, the more one takes off around one's middle.
But, Mrs. Conklin, one can take too much of one's middle. After all, it's nice to have something between one's bottom and one's top.
Yes. But why are we standing? Let's sit down, shall we?
Very well.
Oh, wait. It's not healthy to sit down after a heavy meal.
Heavy meal? But none of us has had anything to eat since lunchtime.
I know, but why take chances?
You and your quips, Miss Brooks. Now, let's all be seated.
Just a moment.
What is it now?
I propose a standing toast to our host and hostess.
Hear, hear.
A toast to our host and hostess.
Now can we sit down?
Would anyone like to hear some music?
Oh, that's a great idea, Harriet. Get out your phonograph record of John Philip Sousa playing the Star-Spangled Banner.
Now, stop the horseplay, you two. Sit down, Mr. Stone. Now, just where were we in our discussion, sir?
You were pointing out to me, Osgood, what a teacher could do on her present salary if she really tried.
Exactly. And not only a teacher, but anyone who lives on a budget. Take that dress my wife is
Oh,
wearing.
now let's not talk about me anymore, Osgood.
Well, why not, my dear? Blushing becomes you.
Oh, well, I'm just a little warm. I think I'll open a window in here.
It's not that warm in here.
Perhaps not, but I thought I'd like to let in a little more air.
Please, Martha, just sit down.
Very well.
What was that?
That was Mrs. Conklin letting some more air in.
Sounded like something ripping. Is that your dress, Mrs. Conklin?
Oh, certainly not. It's still the same lovely three-piece suit it's always been.
Three-piece suit? Martha, stand up a minute.
Yes, Osgood.
What did I tell you? It's the same lovely four-piece suit it's always been. With two pair of skirts.
Gracious, this dress is coming apart at the seams.
But I don't understand it.
Neither do I, but I'd better get into my bedroom and change. Excuse me, please.
Miss Brooks, perhaps you can explain what's going on here.
Not now, Mr. Conklin. I'd better go in and help Mrs. Conklin change.
I'm sure she can manage by herself. Now, sit down, Miss Brooks.
Yes, sir.
Sugar and cream, Miss Brooks.
Get your own sugar and cream, Harriet. Miss Brooks, sit down.
What's going on here?
Not much, Mr. Stone, but an awful lot is coming off. I think I'd better pour myself a cup of tea.
Oh, the lemon, Miss Brooks. Where's the lemon?
It went that way.
Conklin, I think I'm beginning to see what this is all about.
I beg your pardon?
First, you give me all this talk about retrenching. Then you demonstrate that what a teacher can buy on her salary these days is actually nothing but junk. I've got to give you credit, Conklin. Your idea is brilliant.
It is?
Certainly. You've given me a graphic display that too much economy can't possibly work in these days of rising prices. Osgood Conklin, you're really clever.
Oh, come now. Don't deserve all the credit. After all, my wife and Miss Brooks were of considerable assistance, you know. Yes, indeed. You and Martha would make a fine pair of actresses, Miss Brooks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Conklin. I know one theater in town that would love to have us.
Oh, which one is that, Miss Brooks?
The Star and Garter Burlesque.
Miss Brooks returns in just a moment. Now, the case of the close scrape featuring Arthur Griffin, mail carrier. Here's what Mr. Griffin told us. Listen, here's exactly what happened. Shaving was just one close scrape after another for me, and then I discovered Palmolive Lather Shave Cream and a new, different way to shave. Palmolive's oceans of rich, thick lather ended my worries about scrapes, burns, and nicks. Why, even in cold or hard water, that Palmolive lather way is super smooth, super comfortable. Take Arthur Griffin's advice, men. The new Palmolive lather way gets beards really soft, and it provides a protective film that actually floats your razor's cutting edge. You get a clean, close shave every time without worry about scraping or nicking, even in cold or hard water. Arthur Griffin and 1,200 other men tested Palmolive lather cream following package directions. And 3 out of 4 reported smoother, more comfortable shaves the Palmolive shave cream way, no matter how they shaved before. Better get Palmolive Lather Shave Cream. Remember, even in cold or hard water, the Palmolive Lather way means smoother, more comfortable shaves. And now, once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, there wasn't much sense in sitting around in my drafty dress, so I said goodbye and backed out of the Conklins. When I arrived home, Mrs. Davis was most helpful and had just finished sewing me up when the phone rang. Hello?
Oh, hello, Miss Brooks. This is Mr. Boynton. I've been thinking of how lovely you looked in your new dress today, and I wondered if you'd like to take a little walk this evening.
Oh, you took me by surprise, Mr. Boynton. I'm afraid I dropped the receiver. Hold on a moment. I'll pick it up. I'm sorry, Mr. Boynton, but I can't see you tonight.
But why not? It's a beautiful night. The moon is out. The stars are out.
If this wasn't a party line, would I give you an answer?
This is Vern Smith reminding you to tune in next week to another Our Miss Brooks show brought to you by Palmolive Shave Cream for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, and Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay. Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis and Arthur Alsberg, with the music of Wilbur Hatch.
Listen to this. With Marvelous Vel, V-E-L, you can save 90% of dishwashing work.
A quick soak in Vel Suds gets dishes and glassware shiny clean. Even if a bit of food should cling, a touch with a dishcloth gets rid of it fast.
Yes, Vel's activated suds lift off and carry away food and grease. So all dishes need is a quick rinse, and they dry sparkling without washing or wiping.
All pots and pans need is a soaking with Vel Suds. Then you can wash them shiny clean without hard scouring.
What's more, Vel is a miracle of mildness. So get new Vel. Save 90% of dishwashing work.
If you like mysteries that are as full of chuckles as chills, be sure to hear Mr. and Mrs. North every Tuesday over this same network. And be with us again next week at this same time for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks. Bob Lamont speaking. Stay tuned now for Jack Benny. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
By transcription. Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay, and Palmolive Shave Creams for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks,
under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, bringing an apple to the teacher is an old custom indeed. But our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, was quite surprised last Friday morning when Walter Denton handed her a large bouquet of roses as she got into his car to drive to school.
Why, Walter, these flowers are lovely. But what's the occasion?
You're the occasion, beauteous one. The very fact of your presence in my humble conveyance is cause for celebration. And alongside of you, these flowers seem like so many weeds.
That's a very pretty speech, Walter, but I still say these are beautiful flowers. Look at these stems, so long and straight.
Alongside of yours?
I get the idea. Now, what's behind this flattering demonstration of affection?
Behind it? Oh, what could possibly be behind it but a genuine desire to make my favorite teacher happy? Besides, I don't deserve all your gratitude. Some of these flowers were picked in the backyard of a neighbor of mine, Tex Barton.
You mean the boy whose folks recently moved here from Texas?
Yeah, that's him. Oh, he's very fond of school, Miss Brooks.
I know. The minute the final bell rings, he drags himself off the campus as if he was shot out of a cannon. Sometimes I wonder why he doesn't park his horse in the hallway.
Well, there's a reason for his rush, Miss Brooks. Tex's dad is on the local draft board, and he's helping him check the outgoing mails.
That's a switch. In my English class, he checks nothing but the incoming females. But let's get back to the flowers, Walter. Your giving them to me was leading up to a favor, wasn't it?
A favor? Me? Oh, Miss Brooks, how can you possibly suspect me of such foul tactics? No matter how much you pump me, I'm not going to divulge the dismal fact that last Monday, Mr. Conklin caught me holding hands with Harriet and ordered me to stay for an hour after school for 2 weeks to take care of such sundry backbreaking and humiliating jobs as sweeping out classrooms, washing windows, and emptying waste baskets.
I don't know, Mr. Interlocutor. Why should you tell me that Mr. Conklin ordered you to stay for an hour after school for 2 weeks to take care of such sundry backbreaking and humiliating jobs as sweeping out classrooms, washing windows, and emptying waste baskets?
You see, that's just my point. It isn't any of your concern, Miss Brooks. This is my problem and mine alone. Why, you'd have to flay me with a horsewhip before I'd ask you to drop into Mr. Conklin's office this morning and ask him to ease up on me. Why, I just couldn't ask you to do that, Miss Brooks.
You couldn't?
Definitely not. However, if you were sweet enough to volunteer...
Have a seat, Miss Brooks. I'll be with you as soon as I get this fishing and hunting equipment unpacked.
Well, that's quite an assortment, Mr. Conklin.
This fishing tackle is the best money can buy. And look at this, Miss Brooks. Isn't this fly rod a beauty?
Oh, it's perfect. Anybody that couldn't catch flies with that has no talent. The reason I came into your office...
Presently, Miss Brooks, presently. I can hardly wait to try this stuff out at Crystal Lake over the weekend. I'm leaving right after school. $200 worth of sporting goods. And I could never have afforded it without consummating one of my shrewdest transactions this week. Would you like to hear about it, Miss Brooks?
Well, frankly,
I'll tell you. Do you remember the extra car I've had in my garage for, these many months? The bargain I told you I'd relinquish?
You mean the 1928 Hupmobile?
The sale. Well, the other day I found a customer for it.
That's the car you were going to show me when I was visiting you and Mrs. Conklin one afternoon, isn't it?
Yes. Did I show it to you?
No, it was too ill to accept visitors that day. Hardening of the crankshaft had set in.
Well, confidentially, it has no motor, but I neglected to mention that fact to my customer.
But what did you tell him?
I merely informed him that I had misplaced the ignition key and that he may pick up the car this afternoon. By then, I'll be on my way to Crystal Lake with his check for $200 already in my pocket.
But, Mr. Conklin, that doesn't sound very ethical to me.
All's fair in business, Miss Brooks. Remember that.
Now, I'd like to write my customer some sort of a cheer-up message and leave it pinned to the tow rope on the rear axle. But before I can write anything, you will have to walk over to the supply room and get me some stationery. I'm all out.
Yes, sir, but first, may I say a word in behalf of Walter Denton?
If it's a word that accurately describes him, it'll only serve to embarrass the both of us.
Please, sir. He told me you gave him 2 weeks' detention for holding hands with your daughter.
And you're displeased with my decision in this matter?
Mr. Conklin, I don't mean to encroach upon your authority, but all I ask is, does the punishment fit the crime?
Perhaps not, but that can be adjusted. Instead of 2 weeks' detention, I'll give him a month.
A month picking up wastebaskets and emptying them into an incinerator?
I'm glad you reminded me. I want Denton to move the incinerator away from the fence.
Fence? There's no fence near our incinerator.
I'm glad you reminded me. Denton has always struck me as being the sort of boy who could build a first-rate fence.
But, Mr. Conklin, how can Walter possibly find time to complete all these extra tasks?
I see what you mean, Miss Brooks, and I do want to be fair about this matter. I tell you what, instead of a month, I'll extend his detention period to 6 weeks. Now, get that stationery and hurry back.
Oh, but Mr. Conklin, please. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Walter, but...
Yeah, I know, Miss Brooks. With the transom open, I could hear the entire sickening conversation.
Then you know that I tried.
Yet my appreciation for your efforts is only exceeded by my gratitude that you came out when you did. Somehow I got the feeling that if you'd said 4 more words in my behalf, you'd have had me in the gas chamber.
Well, cheer up, Walter. Maybe he'll relent before the 6 weeks are up. Well, I've got to... Wait a minute. Is there a circus on our campus?
A circus? Of course not.
Then why is that antelope coming down our hallway?
That's Tex Barton, Miss Brooks. Hi, Tex.
Hi, Walter. Howdy, Miss Brooks.
Howdy, stranger.
Shucks, ma'am, I ain't no stranger to you.
Maybe it's wishful thinking. Tex, your pal Walter needs a bit of pepping up. He's pretty low this morning.
Shucks, pard, that ain't no way to be.
Well, I can't help it. Miss Brooks tried to get me out of a jam with Mr. Conklin, but it was no dice.
Well, now, if a handsome critter like you couldn't soften the hombre, he must be dead set again, Walter. Forgive my boldness, ma'am, but you're as pretty as a Palomino mare eloping off to the barn when she gets a whiff of new mown hay.
What can I say, Tex, after I've said... Well, you'll have to excuse me, kids. I've got to lope over to the supply room and get Mr. Conklin some writing paper. See you in class later on.
Yeah, goodbye, Miss Brooks.
Adios, mi chiquita. Say, Walter, would you keep these papers in your briefcase for me? I forgot mine.
Oh, sure, Tex. Say, these are a bunch of blank induction notices, aren't they?
Yeah, uh-huh. I got to bring them to my pa down to the draft board after school.
Wait a minute. I've got an idea. If old Marblehead thinks he's going fishing at Crystal Lake while I do a lot of menial jobs around here, he's got another think coming. Now, where's that pen of mine? Oh, here we are.
Walter, what are you going to do?
I've already done it. I wrote Mr. Conklin's name on this induction notice. Now we'll slip it under his door and beat it.
Come in.
Here's the stationery you wanted, Mr. Conklin. Oh, what's this on the floor? Some sort of a notice.
A notice? Hand it to me, please. Oscar Conklin, Principal Office of Madison High School. Oh, God!
What does it say, Mr. Conklin?
It says, greeting.
Your birthday?
No, it is not my birthday. These greetings inform me that I have been selected for training and service in the armed forces of the United States.
You?
They must be in quite a hurry to get me. They didn't even mail this thing. They just slipped it under the door. And I have to report this afternoon. Well, this is it.
Oh, now don't jump to conclusions, Mr. Conklin. At your age...
There is no age limit for a good soldier, Miss Brooks. You forget I resigned my commission as a major in 1946. This notice makes it obvious the top brass wants me back.
But, sir, if you were a major, why wouldn't they offer you a commission instead of inducting you as a private?
Politics? Besides, mine not to reason why. I'll miss my life here at Madison. No more meetings, no more books.
No more teachers' dirty looks. I still can't believe that our military situation is so desperate that... Well, why should they want a high school principal?
They always want efficient men in the armed forces, Miss Brooks. They just figured it's time old Coke and Crackers Conklin was back in harness, that's all.
Coke and Crackers Conklin?
An affectionate nickname the boys pinned on me for my lengthy tour of duty at the canteen snack bar. It looks like Eisenhower was right when he inspected our Indian wrestling team at the Elks Club in 1940. At that time, he shook hands with me and said, "Conklin, you've got a firm grip, the kind of a grip this country needs."
General Eisenhower said that to you?
It was Lieutenant Eisenhower then, Miss Brooks.
Lieutenant in World War II?
I'll never forget that man. Lieutenant Stanley Eisenhower.
Oh, I remember him. Good pal of Ensign Sam Nimitz, wasn't he? But, Mr. Conklin, if you're going to report to your draft board this afternoon, is there anything I can do to assist you at school?
Your loyalty touches an old soldier's heart, Miss Brooks. Yes, come to think of it, there's a lot you can do. Firstly, I won't be needing any of this sports equipment. Please try to dispose of it for me.
But can't you take it back to the store?
No, I bought it at a final sale. Perhaps you could auction it off. I'm sure some of the teachers might be interested, if only for sentimental reasons, in owning something that belonged, however fleetingly, to their departing principal.
Well, if the price is cheap enough. I mean, what we could do is put up a notice on the bulletin board and hold the auction in the gym. But, Mr. Conklin, I don't know very much about auctioning things off, and since this emergency was caused by the armed forces, I'd like your permission to telephone Marshall.
Defense Secretary Marshall?
No, Marshall Monahan. He's a war surplus auctioneer.
Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay, and Palmolive Shave Creams for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden.
It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks, under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, whenever the routine at Madison High School is disturbed in any way, Principal Osgood Conklin registers serious objections, and he usually blames our Miss Brooks, who teaches English there, for the disturbance.
But the latest upheaval in Madison's schedule was definitely not my fault. 2 weeks ago, the Board of Education put a television set into the school to see if its cultural and educational programs would enhance our regular curriculum. Last Thursday at breakfast, I discussed it with my landlady.
What effect has the television set had so far?
Well, Miss Fitzgerald, who conducts the TV group an hour a day, says there's one very marked result, Mrs. Davis.
In just 2 weeks?
That's right. There isn't a student at Madison who can't tell the difference between a Pinto and a Palomino at one glance.
They do have a great many cowboy films on, don't they?
I would say so, yes. But there are quite a few murder mysteries on, too, and some splendid horror films.
But, Connie, the board placed the set in the school for its scholastic value. Don't they televise any purely educational programs?
Oh, I suppose so, Mrs. Davis. They had a semi-educational program on yesterday.
Semi-educational?
Yes, I think it was called The Batman Eats Up the Dean of Harvard.
Well, I'm I'm sure they'll have more and more cultural things to look at as time goes by. Oh, that reminds me, Connie. It's been some time since that letter came for you. Did you get it?
Letter? No, I didn't get any letter.
Oh, me and that absent mind of mine. And I purposely put it where we couldn't overlook it, on your plate.
My plate?
Oh, dear. How much of your eggs have you eaten?
Every bit but this blue part with the black line stamped on it. Here's the letter, all right. Uh-oh. It's another letter from the collection agency.
The collection agency?
Yes, Sherry's department store has put their delinquent accounts into the hands of the Coulter Collection Agency. It seems I've owed Sherry's about $25 for my Easter shopping.
You mean they're making all this fuss at Sherry's because you haven't paid them since Easter?
Easter 1945.
What does the letter say? What does it say?
It says that I've either got to pay the money at once or they'll notify my employer and attach my salary. Oh, this is terrible. You know how Mr. Conklin feels about anyone who gets into debt.
I wish I could help you, Connie, but the only money I've got is what you owe me for back rent.
Oh, I wouldn't want you to dig into that. Well, I've got to be leaving for school, and maybe someone there could lend me some money.
How about Mr. Boynton?
Mr. Boynton? Yes, he might have something saved up.
He should. He's a bachelor.
Don't rub it in. I kind of hate to ask him for a loan.
Oh, nonsense, Connie. I'm sure he'll be happy to help you. He'll probably hand you $25 before you've even finished asking for it.
It'll take longer than that to open his money belt.
Wait up, Miss Brooks. I'd like to chin with you for a spell. Oh, it's me, Tex Barton.
Oh, for a second there, I thought the television set came out in the hall.
I've been hearing a lot about this here television. I gotta get me a look at some of that stuff.
A mirror is cheaper. I don't like to rush you, Tex, but I'm really...
The reason I stopped you, Miss Brooks, I wanted to tell you Mr. Boynton's looking for you.
Mr. Boynton?
Yeah, he seems right fond of you, ma'am. With no intention of sounding forward or personal, I'd like to say that I think the man who gets his brand on you is a mighty lucky hombre.
Well, thank you, Tex. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to the biology lab and get some branding irons in the fire. Adios, Tex.
Well, Miss Brooks, come on in.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Boynton. What is it you wanted to see me about?
Well, it's, Miss Brooks, for over 4 years now, you and I have been, well, friends.
Don't rub it in. I mean, of course we've been friends.
Well, it's very difficult for me to have to do this, Miss Brooks, but I'd like to ask a favor of you.
Now, that's a coincidence. I have a favor to ask of you, too.
Really? Well, that makes it easier for me to ask mine. Miss Brooks?
Yes, Mr. Boynton?
Can you lend me $25?
$25? Well, I don't like to flaunt my erudition, Mr. Boynton, but you ain't heard no coincidences yet. I came in here to borrow $25 from you.
What?
I got a letter from a collection agency this morning.
A collection agency? The Coulter Collection Agency?
Yes. Do you take from them, too?
They wrote me a letter saying they'd notify my employer if I didn't pay them $25 at once.
Was yours an overdue charge from Sherry's?
Well, yes. I bought some presents for my twin nephews, Mike and Danny, on their 5th birthday.
And Sherry's is making all this fuss because you haven't paid for them yet?
Well, the twins were 9 on Friday. I wanted to pay this bill, but I just haven't been able to.
Neither have I. And if Mr. Conklin finds out from the agency that... Wait a minute. I've got an idea.
Oh, what is it?
I'm going to tell Mr. Conklin about my predicament myself. For the honor of the school, he might advance me the money.
Well, do you think he'd do the same for me?
Well, it's worth a try. I'll tackle him first, then you can have a whack at him after lunch.
That sounds pretty dangerous to me, Miss Brooks. Do you really think you ought to take the bull by the horns?
Certainly. And I can see the headline now. Girl Toreador tossed into the bleachers.
Come in.
Pardon me, Mr. Conklin. I don't like to disturb you,
Let's not start the day with half-truths, Miss Brooks. What do you want?
Well, sir, it's like this. Do you mind if I open the window?
The window?
Just the width of a human body.
Quite comfortable in this office. Now get to the point, please.
All right, I will. I need $25 to pay a delinquent bill I owe at Sherry's department store because they've turned it over to a collection agency which wrote me a letter saying that if I don't pay it promptly, they'll take it up with you. And as small as it is, I've grown too attached to my salary to have it attached. I thank you.
What? Am I to understand that one of my teachers is in the hands of a collection agency?
$25 worth of me is. I've wanted to pay it, sir, but
What a deplorable state of affairs. Obviously, your self-indulgence and mismanagement have brought you to this sorry plight.
Yes, sir. But if I can just get some help this one time.
I suppose I'll have to do something about the situation. If the Board of Education ever found out about this, it would reflect not only on you, but on your school and its principal as well. Naturally, I don't want any skeletons in Madison's closet.
Oh, you're so right, Mr. Conklin. It's terrifying enough around here without that.
Who is it?
I'm from the Calder Collection Agency.
Oops, he's here already. What should I do, Mr. Conklin? Where can I go?
Now, calm down, Miss Brooks. One moment, please. I'll handle this matter. You go into my inner office and wait there until I call you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks very much.
Come in.
My name is Gray, William Gray. I'm with the Coulter Collection Agency.
How do you do, Mr. Gray? I presume you're here in regard to a debt of one of Madison's teachers?
No, I'm here in regard to a debt of one Osgood Conklin.
Osgood Conklin?
Yes, I'm new in this town and haven't had much of a chance to get acquainted. Sherry's department store tells me he owes them $50 since 1948. Could you help me find Mr. Conklin?
What kind of a looking fellow is he? Have you any idea?
Well, he was described to me as a dumpy sort of chap. Thinning hair and a mustache that looks like an unkept lawn.
What? Why, there's no such person in this vicinity. Although, come to think of it, there was an Osgood Conklin employed here 4 or 5 years ago. I believe he was the school custodian.
The one I have in mind is the principal of this school.
The principal? Now?
Yes. And if you happen to hear from him, would you be kind enough to inform him that unless he pays the $50 he owes by this afternoon, we will notify the Board of Education and take steps to attach his salary.
But you can't do... that is, I'll be happy to inform the gentleman this way. Now, as the new school custodian, I'm quite busy, so if you'll excuse me, I'd like
Yes, certainly. Thank you for your courtesy.
That's quite all right. Good day, Mr. Gray.
Good day, Mr. Conklin.
Well, at least I'll have time. Good day, Mr. Conklin. Gad, he knows. Oh, well. I'll think of something. Miss Brooks, you may come in now.
Is he gone?
Yes, he's gone. Oh, by the way, you didn't happen to overhear any of our conversation, did you?
Why, Mr. Conklin, you know there's a key in the keyhole. I mean, that inner office is practically soundproof.
Good. Well, I can't possibly advance you any money, but in spite of your incompetence in managing your personal affairs, I put Mr. Gray off your trail, at least temporarily.
Oh, thank you, sir. At least I can go to my first class in peace.
Well, don't mention it. But before you go, I think I would like the window opened after all. It got quite hot in here rather suddenly. Don't you think so, Miss Brooks?
Yes, I do, Mr. Conklin. Especially for school custodians.
Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream. It cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate toothpaste.
Cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate Dental Cream cleans your breath while it cleans your teeth. And the Colgate way stops tooth decay best.
Yes, the Colgate way is the most thoroughly proved and accepted home method of oral hygiene known today. Over 2 years' research showed brushing teeth right after eating with Colgate Dental Cream helped stop more decay for more people than ever before reported in dentifrice history. The Colgate way stopped tooth decay best.
No other dentifrice, ammoniated or not, offers such conclusive proof. And you should know that Colgate's, while not mentioned by name, was the only toothpaste used in the research on tooth decay recently reported in Reader's Digest.
So always follow the Colgate way to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and stop tooth decay best.
Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream. It cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
And the Colgate way stops tooth decay best.
Well, since Mr. Conklin was a charter member of the Bad Debt Club, along with Mr. Boynton and myself, we were all faced with the same dilemma: how to stall off the Coulter Collection Agency before it took unpleasant action that afternoon. I was pondering this weighty problem in the school cafeteria at noon when Harriet Conklin and Walter Denton, two of my lesser problems, approached the table.
Hi, Miss Brooks.
Hello, Harriet. Walter?
Greetings, most majestic mentor. We kneel at your feet, oh gracious queen of the faculty.
Arise, knight. With this butter knife, I dub thee Sir Appetite. Sit down, have some lunch, Walter.
No, I just ate, Miss Brooks.
Oh, come now. You can think of a better excuse than that.
We're cutting down on our lunch these days, Miss Brooks.
Why, Harriet?
So we can enjoy the popcorn better when we watch television. You have no idea how we enjoy the school set, Miss Brooks. Hey, it's a wonderful medium for education.
Oh, now, just a minute, Walter. I've watched some of those shows. Do you call those Western movies educational?
Well, certainly. Of course, it all depends on what an individual's looking for. Now, me, I watch them to learn about customs and manners of a great era and a great adventurous people. And Harriet, on the other hand, watches them for another reason.
What does she want to learn? How to slide a glass of beer down a long bar?
There are some really legitimate educational programs shown, Miss Brooks. We just haven't been able to get them lately.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Oh, I suppose you kids do get something out of the television class.
Oh, we do, Miss Brooks. Miss Fitzgerald is most helpful and constructive. She keeps the room in just the right degree of darkness to make the picture come out sharp and clear.
As a matter of fact, Harriet and I are on our way to the television room right now.
But, Walter, it's only 12:30. There's nothing permitted on television until the class at 2.
I know. Isn't it wonderful? Oh, come on, Harriet, dear. Goodbye, Miss Brooks.
It's a great place to hold hands, Miss Brooks. You ought to drop in there with Mr. Boynton sometime.
Oh, fine. Little did I think in Teachers College that someday I'd be on the faculty at Lowe's Madison High.
Pardon me, Miss Brooks, but is this table occupied?
No, Mr. Boynton. The occupation force has just left. Sit down, won't you?
Oh, thanks. Well, I haven't been able to get the money for the collection agency as yet, have you?
No, I haven't. But we're not the only indigent faculty members at this school. Our principal owes a bill, too.
You mean Mr. Conklin's in the same boat we are?
He's not only in it, he's rocking it. While I was in his office, I heard Mr. Gray from the agency threaten to expose Mr. Conklin to the Board of Education if he didn't pay up $50 by this afternoon.
Why, that's terrible.
Tragic.
There must be some method whereby we could pacify the agency until we could pay up. In that way, maybe...
Wait, I've got an idea. Maybe we could put up something as security. You know, temporary collateral.
Collateral?
Oh, but I haven't anything that's worth $25 with me, and even my watch.
I know. It's in the same window as mine.
Oh, what we might be able to do is give them one item that might serve as security until we all pay up. Now, let's see now. Isn't there something right here at school that looks impressive but is completely unessential?
Sure there is. But the collection agency would never accept Mr. Conklin as security.
No, please, Miss Brooks. This is serious.
Say, I know what might work. We'll offer them the school television set. So far, it's been most unessential.
Oh, but it's not our property. It belongs to the board.
We'll only be borrowing it, Mr. Boynton. And since we'll be helping Mr. Conklin out of a jam, too, he'll be sure to cooperate. Yes, the more I think about it, the more I like it. I'll call Mr. Gray and have him pick up the set immediately.
But, Miss Brooks, are you sure Mr. Conklin will stand for this?
Mr. Boynton, I'm positive. I can hardly wait to see his face when I tell him about it. I'll bet it turns absolutely human.
This is the office of Osgood Conklin, the principal of Madison High School, himself speaking.
Isn't that nice? Well, this is himself, head of the Board of Education on this end.
What? Mr. Stone, how nice to hear from you, sir. I was just saying to myself...
Tell me about it this afternoon, Conklin. I'm coming over to see how that television class is working in your school.
The television class? But, Mr. Stone, are you sure this afternoon is convenient for you? Maybe some other time...
We went to considerable expense to install that set 2 weeks ago, and I've got to find out if the experiment is worth it. I'll see you in about an hour. Goodbye.
Yes, sir. Goodbye, Mr. Stone. Oh, everything happens to me. I hope that collection agency fellow doesn't come snooping around this afternoon. Whoop.
He won't be back until tomorrow.
It's me, Mr. Conklin, Miss Brooks.
Oh, come in.
Mr. Conklin, I've got some delightful news for you.
Really? When are you transferring?
Even better news than that, if that's possible. What I wanted to tell you, sir, was that I've put up some security, and the collection agency isn't going to bother us again until we're ready to pay them back what we owe.
Why, Miss Brooks, you have no idea what a relief this is to me. Just before you arrived, Mr. Stone called and said he was coming over this afternoon. It would have been terribly embarrassing if he'd run into that collection chap.
Oh, it certainly would have. But if I say so myself, and who else is going to, I have successfully circumvented that catastrophe. Yes, sir, I just used the old noggin and...
Well, tell me, Miss Brooks, just how did you manage to stall them?
Well, I simply called Mr. Gray and had him pick up the school television set.
And in return for that, he agreed not to... You had him pick up what?
The school television set. You see, sir, I figured...
Oh, God! The reason Mr. Stone just called was to inform me that he's coming over this afternoon to witness the school set in operation.
What? But he can't do that. I mean, we've got to do something.
You've got to do something. As the author of the infamous plot just outlined to me, the responsibility for all further action rests with you and you alone.
Yes, sir. Even while you were talking, the very tiniest mouse of an idea began nibbling at my brain.
If I know you, Miss Brooks, he'll either starve to death in 5 minutes or emerge as the most terrifying spectacle since the Phantom of the Opera.
Well, we're assured of the cooperation of the kids, Mr. Conklin. The rest is up to us.
It's a desperate measure, Miss Brooks, but I'll do my part. Now, as I understand it, you are to remain here in my office to receive Mr. Stone, and I am to return in about 5 minutes.
Correct. Believe me, Mr. Conklin, when Mr. Stone leaves here, he'll be delighted that our TV set is no longer on the premises.
I'd like to believe you, Miss Brooks. And now, as I leave this office where I spent so many joyous years as Madison's beloved dictator, a principal, I can only say, as I open this door, that if I am about to walk into the shadow of unemployment,
I shall not walk alone.
Isn't he sweet? Oh, give me a home. Da 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 da. Come in.
Good afternoon, Miss Brooks. Is Mr. Conklin in?
No, sir.
Now, where is he?
Well, I can't rightly say. He just sort of took off like a big-winged bird.
What?
More likely he just moseyed down the hall a piece. Come on in and sit, Mr. Stone. I'll chin with you a spell.
Chin with... Miss Brooks, do you realize you're talking to the head of the Board of Education?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Stone. It's just that I've been watching so much television since you had it installed at school that this here Western palaver comes right natural to me.
That set was installed for strictly cultural purposes.
And that's the way it's been used. It's already tied and branded most of the young'uns here at Madison.
The young'uns?
Beg pardon for busting in, Miss Brooks, but have you seen anything of my Pappy?
Nary hide nor hair, Harry. But you haven't said howdy to Mr. Stone, gal. Mr. Stone, you know Harriet Conklin.
I used to.
Howdy, Mr. Stone. Right nice to meet up with you again.
Now, who's she supposed to be? Calamity Jane? Why does everybody spend so much attention to Westerns? As far as I'm concerned, they're nothing
Hold on there, Mr. Stone. That kind of palaver don't go in these parts.
What's that?
You was about to say a discouraging word.
I'll say more than that.
Excuse me, folks. The door was open, so I thought I'd just lope on in.
This I don't believe at all.
Well, now, this is Tex Barton. Tex, this is Mr. Stone from the Board of Education.
Well, if he's a friend of yours, Miss Brooks, he's a friend of mine, no matter where he's from.
Now, see here, this farce has gone far enough. Why are you talking in this manner, boy?
I don't know no other way.
How long have you been speaking with this Western drawl?
Why, I've been a-talking this way since I was ankle high to the drooping fetlock of a stunted pindle.
And you can't get lower than that unless you're driving a submarine.
He can't have always talked this way. Television isn't that old.
With him, it's standard equipment, Mr. Stone.
I don't get this. Does everyone at Madison want to be a cowboy?
Oh, no, sir. Several of them have expressed a desire to be Indians.
When this TV proposition was broached... Oh, there you are, Conklin.
Sorry I'm late. Now, I guess you must think I'm a pretty ornery maverick.
Ornery maverick?
Why, sure. To go traipsing off while you're squatting on your haunches in my corral?
Oh, for heaven's sakes, not you, too!
Mr. Conklin's watched television very closely.
Yeah, I've observed it thoroughly, partner. I mean, Mr. Stone.
All I can say is the influence it's had on this particular school is positively abysmal.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, what you said. That's why I took the liberty of making a rather radical decision today. Mr. Stone, what would you say if I told you that the television set was no longer with us?
I'd say good riddance, Osgood. Splendid.
You would? In that case, I must, with humble pride, accept your congratulations, sir. The set is off these premises. And as I would have taken full censure, so must I take full credit for its going.
Huh?
In its concept from the beginning, this action taken for the good of the school was my doing and mine alone. And I know Miss Brooks will be the first to bear me out.
Definitely. How do you want to go? Head first or feet first?
Our Miss Brooks returns in just a moment, but first...
You get smoother, more comfortable shaves by shaving the Palmolive brushless way. Yes, smoother, more comfortable shaves the Palmolive brushless way. Boom.
Hey, that's a fact, men. You can get smoother, yes, more comfortable shaves the Palmolive brushless shaving cream way. Just rub velvet smooth Palmolive brushless into your beard. You'll find it wilts the toughest whiskers, actually protects your skin by providing a soft film that floats your razor's cutting edge. Remember, over 1,200 men tested the Palmolive brushless shaving cream way, following directions on the package. And no matter how they shaved before, 3 out of 4 reported beards easier to cut, less razor pull, smoother, more comfortable, yes, more comfortable shaves. So, men, try the Palmolive brushless way yourself. Even in cold or hard water, you get a close, clean shave. And a smoother, more comfortable, yes, a more comfortable shave.
You get smoother, more comfortable shaves the Palmolive brushless way.
Next time you shave, try the Palmolive brushless shaving cream way.
And now, once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, as soon as Mr. Stone and the others had left his office, Mr. Conklin admitted that he was grateful for my assistance. Then, in the manner so typical of the man, he immediately conferred upon me my reward.
Miss Brooks, in appreciation for your meritorious service, I have decided to bestow a rare honor upon you. You will be permitted to type up in triplicate 6 copies of my latest report to the superintendent of schools and have it on my desk tomorrow morning. Miss Brooks, you haven't answered me. Where are you going?
I'm going to head him off at the pass. It's the only way to save the fort.
Reminding you to tune in next week for another Our Miss Brooks show, brought to you by Palmolive Shave Cream for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, and Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis and Arthur Alsberg, with the music of Wilbur Hatch.
Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay, and Palmolive Shave Creams for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden.
It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks, under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, in the daily life of Our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, teaching itself only takes up a portion of her time. This leaves a number of free hours each day to pursue an outside interest.
But it doesn't leave quite enough free hours, especially since my outside interest refuses to stand still long enough for me to drop a net over him. In fact, lately, I've even considered taking up another outside activity besides Mr. Boynton, like the one my landlady began recently. Mrs. Davis was quite reticent about her hobby until last Wednesday morning at breakfast, when she gave me a broad hint.
Notice anything different about the table this morning, Connie?
Well, the big catsup stain in front of my place is gone.
It's under your egg cup, dear. Yes, again.
Oh, of course. The big bowl of apples in the center. What a delicious display.
I'm glad you like it, Connie. It's a hat.
Who designed it? William Tell?
No, I did. You probably don't know this, but years ago, I used to design hats like mad.
Why, you mad hatter, you. I never would have suspected. You seem so normal in some other respects.
Well, I haven't had the yen in years, but last week my brother Victor sent me some samples of the material his firm makes, and You know my brother Victor, don't you?
I've heard you speak of him quite often.
He's a peculiar man, Victor. Rather a slow-moving type of fellow, but once he gets interested in something, he follows right through. The last couple of years, he's been up to his ears in plastics.
No wonder he's slow-moving. But what has plastic got to do with your designing hats again?
That's what they're made of. I'll bet you never even noticed that this is really 2 hats in one.
2 in one?
Yes. Worn this way, it looks like a bowl of apples. But when you turn it around like this, it's a sparrow.
Well, what a novel idea. If you're out with a man you like, you tempt him with an apple. And if your date is a drip, he gets the bird.
I've got 4 of them all made up so far. They should be easy to sell with Mother's Day coming this Sunday.
Well, I don't know, Mrs. Davis. They're a bit unusual for popular consumption, I'm afraid.
Not if they're presented right, Connie. And that's where you come in. I want you to help me sell them at school.
Me?
Yes. If you sell all 4 of them, I'll deduct half of the back rent you owe me.
Oh.
And it shouldn't be difficult to sell them. It isn't as if they were hard to move.
Not if the wind is right. Of course, if I could reduce my debt to you, that must be Walter Denton. He's driving me down to school. Come on in, Walter.
Try to sell him one for his mother, Connie. I'll get into the kitchen and rustle up some goodies for Walter's inner man.
Better get some for his outer man, too.
Greetings to the brightest star in the scholastic firmament.
It's a little early for me to twinkle, Walter, but sit down. You're going to have a bit of breakfast with us, aren't you?
Well, I might be persuaded to partake of a wee morsel if you coax me.
And if I don't coax you?
You couldn't be that cruel.
All right, then. What'll it be? French toast? Eggs? Griddle cake?
Fine.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes, Connie?
Walter's here. Vacuum the kitchen and bring in the bag.
I'm cooking up a giant omelet for him, dear.
He's the little giant that can eat it.
I don't know what's happening at home, but my mother just doesn't seem to be making the breakfast she used to.
Well, maybe she's just worn out.
Well, she does cook an awful lot of meals for us.
Of course she does, Walter. And while we're on the subject, how much thought have you given to her Mother's Day gift?
Oh, quite a bit. And I've come up with something that should show her how grateful I am for all she's done for me. I'm going to get her a present that'll make her forget the many menial and arduous tasks she performs in my behalf.
What's the present?
A bottle of sweet air for the kitchen. What do you think of the idea, Miss Brooks?
It smells. It smells very pleasant.
Of course, I'd like to get her something else, too, but on my allowance, unless my dad chips in, I couldn't afford much.
Walter, I have a suggestion for a gift that your dad will be happy to chip in for. Just look at the center of this table.
Holy cow, is it alive?
Certainly not. It happens to be a woman's hat.
A woman's hat? Oh, you're joking, of course.
Joking nothing. I'm wearing it to school this morning.
Say, that'd make a wonderful decoration for our dining room table at home. Mother always likes to have something gay and colorful in the center of the table.
That's what I say. It would make a wonderful decoration for your dining room table at home.
Wait up a minute, Miss Brooks.
Who's that?
It's me, Tex Barton. Howdy, ma'am.
Howdy, Tex.
You seem in a hurry, ma'am. Why, when I flagged you, you was barreling across this campus like a doggy that just smelled a branding iron.
Well, it's not that bad. Although I do have to see Mr. Conklin before class.
Well, Glory be to Sam Houston.
And hallelujah to Dave Dallas. What's up?
Miss Brooks, have you any idea of the activity that's going on up there in the upper regions of your anatomy?
What?
kidding me? For a lizard, if there ain't a sparrow eating apples off in your skull.
Now calm down, Tex. This is just a new style of hat.
A hat? Well, you could have fooled me.
By the way, Mother's Day is just around the corner. Have you decided on a gift for your mother yet?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about that, Miss Brooks, but it's kind of tough to figure out what'd please Mom.
Maybe I can help you.
I doubt it, ma'am. For Christmas, Pa and I got her some brand new riding boots and stirrups. For her birthday, we got her a pair of chaps and a Stetson. And for Easter, we decked her out in a spanking new box of saddle soap. So, you see, she's got just about everything a normal woman needs.
A normal woman who's competing in a rodeo, you mean? Look, Tex, a hat like the one I'm wearing would make a lovely gift, and it's only $10.
It sure is flashy, Miss Brooks, and Pa and I could afford that much, but there's a couple of things that have to be done to it first.
For instance?
Well, do you think you could make 2 holes in it?
Holes?
Yeah, so's her ears could come through.
So her ears could come through. Tex, your mother must have a very low forehead.
Well, I wouldn't give it to my mother, Miss Brooks. I'd just be getting it for my mother to give to Lucy.
Lucy?
She's our horse. She sure will look beautiful in it.
I'm sure she will, Tex. You can pick up the hat at Mrs. Davis's today.
Today? When would be a good time, ma'am?
The same time you leave the $10.
But, Daddy, please be reasonable. There isn't time for me to pick out your Mother's Day gift.
I didn't ask you into my office to argue, Harriet. I should think you'd want to see your mother receive a nice present.
I do, Daddy, and I'm getting her one with most of my allowance. But your gift to her is something else again. She always expects something outstanding.
Well, obviously, my dear, she married me, didn't she?
Yes, but about other things, she's pretty particular. I mean, well, I wouldn't mind selecting something for you, but you always insist that I find a bargain.
There's nothing wrong with being frugal, Harriet. It's a bit... Come in.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin. Hello, Harriet.
Hi, Miss Brooks.
Hello, Miss... Good grief! Something has alighted on your hair.
But, Mr. Conklin...
Don't stand there, Harriet. Get a net. Maybe we can trap it for our nature study group.
It happens to be a hat, Mr. Conklin.
It's very exciting, Miss Brooks. Now, if you'll excuse me, Daddy.
Very well, but I'll talk to you later, Miss Important.
Bye, Miss Brooks.
Mr. Conklin, knowing how fond of brevity you are, I'll come right to the point of my visit. Sunday is Mother's Day. How would you like to buy a hat like this for Mrs. Conklin?
For Mrs. Conklin?
Yes, don't you think she deserves something like this?
Well, she has been a source of great irritation on occasion. No, I'm not interested, Miss Brooks.
If I can sell one of these hats, it will help get me out of debt, Mr. Conklin. Besides, it's a real bargain.
I'm sorry, I'm definitely not in... Did you say a bargain, Miss Brooks?
Yes, sir. Much cheaper than you can get it on the open market.
Where did you get it?
Let's just say I have access, Mr. Conklin.
These hats aren't hot, are they?
Hottest thing in town? Oh, you mean stolen? No, sir, they're not stolen. Although you could call them a steal at $10 each.
$10? For a few apples and a small sparrow?
It's evident, Mr. Conklin, that you haven't heard how meat and fruit have gone up. But think of how exclusive this hat is.
Well, for my wife, it would have to be, Miss Brooks. She has an absolute fanatic approach on individualized apparel. She wouldn't be caught dead in anything that even resembled what someone else was wearing.
Mr. Conklin, when it comes to this hat, I give you my unqualified guarantee.
You do?
Absolutely. Believe me, she won't be caught dead in it.
Brush Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream. It cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate toothpaste.
Cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate Dental Cream cleans your breath while it cleans your teeth. And the Colgate way stops tooth decay best.
Yes, the Colgate way is the most thoroughly proved and accepted home method of oral hygiene known today. Over 2 years' research showed brushing teeth right after eating with Colgate Dental Cream helped stop more decay for more people than ever before reported in dentifrice history. The Colgate way stopped tooth decay best.
No other dentifrice, ammoniated or not, offers such conclusive proof. And you should know that Colgate's, while not mentioned by name, was the only toothpaste used in the research on tooth decay recently reported in Reader's Digest.
So always follow the Colgate way to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and stop tooth decay best.
Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream. It cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
And the Colgate way stops tooth decay best.
Well, by the time I was to meet Mr. Boynton at lunch, I had sold 3 of the 4 hats Mrs. Davis had made up. One to Walter Denton for his mother to be used as a table centerpiece, one to Tex Barton for his horse to be used as an eye shade, and one to Mr. Conklin for his wife to be used, of all things, as a hat. I had the sample hat on when Mr. Boynton came over to our table.
Hello, Miss Brooks. Sorry I'm late. I couldn't get here any sooner.
That's all right, Mr. Boynton. Put down your tray.
Thank you.
Notice anything different about me today?
Different? Let's see. Well, for heaven's sake, I apologize for being late. You oughtn't to go to such lengths to chide me about it.
To chide you?
Well, yes, after all, this is a public eating place. You shouldn't balance your dessert on your head.
Dessert? Mr. Boynton, this happens to be a hat.
I'm sorry, Miss Brooks. I'm afraid I dropped my cutlery.
You should be more careful, Mr. Boynton. That knife might have dented your meatloaf. Oh, I'm sorry I frightened you so.
Oh, I should be used to sights like this. When I was a kid, my mother always had some fantastic creations around the house.
Really? How many brothers and sisters did you have? Oh, you mean hat. Well, may I remind you, Mr. Boynton, that Mother's Day will soon be with us?
Well, so will my mother. Yes, she's coming down this afternoon to stay through the weekend. Unfortunately, Dad has to stay home on business, but Mom and I are going to have a high old time.
Have you made all of your plans for celebrating the holiday, Mr. Boynton?
Yes, indeed. Oh, it's going to be one mad world for the both of us. I've got a 4-day itinerary all mapped out.
Oh, what are you going to do?
Well, on Thursday, I thought I'd show Mom the new wing of our public library. Friday, we'll do the Museum of Natural History, and Saturday, we'll have a go at the Botanical Gardens.
Wow.
Well, there's not going to be any let-up in the evenings, either. If we're not playing chess or checkers, I'll whip out the old domino set. By the way, can you think of anything that might add to the merriment, Miss Brooks?
Yes, but I think the morgue is closed on weekends. That is, I do have a suggestion that might be quite a surprise for your mother.
Oh, what is it?
Why don't you get her a nice hat? You said yourself that she used to like unique hats.
I'm sorry, Miss Brooks. I'm not interested.
Oh, that's too bad, Mr. Boynton. It's a real bargain.
Well, I'd like to get her something, of course, but this is just out of... Did you say a bargain?
Never misses.
Where did you get the hat, Miss Brooks?
The truth is, I'm disposing of them for Mrs. Davis. They're only $10 apiece.
$10 apiece?
Get your jaw out of the potatoes, and I'll make it...
I guess we could arrive at some sort of a deal, Miss Brooks, but there's one thing of which I must be certain.
What's that?
Well, that my mother doesn't see any other woman wearing a hat like it. Mom's a fanatic on individualized apparel.
I'll sell her the very one I'm modeling today, Mr. Boynton. Bring her over to my place about 8:30 tonight, and we'll surprise her with it.
All right, but you're sure now that she'll be the only woman to have this particular hat?
While she's in town, your mother will be the only woman seen wearing this particular hat.
Good. Well, I'm going to get myself some dessert now, Miss Brooks. Would you like me to bring something back for you?
Yes, I would, Mr. Boynton. I'd like a Coke. The 5-cent size will do.
Very well.
That's all I want right now, Mr. Boynton.
Okay.
Oh, here.
Thanks. I'll just be a minute, Miss Brooks.
Take your time, Sporty. Somebody's got to teach him that money isn't everything, especially my money. Oh, well.
Hello, Miss Brooks. I thought I'd find you here. May I speak with you for a moment?
Oh, of course, Mr. Conklin.
Thank you. Now, about that hat I agreed to buy for my wife, I want it to be a complete surprise. She mustn't see it until Sunday.
I'll say she mustn't. I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise if she did.
Now, there's one important factor we overlooked in our discussion this morning, Miss Brooks. I neglected to give you my wife's measurements.
Well, I'll take them right now. How far apart are your wife's ears?
How far apart are her ears?
Sorry, that was another customer. What is her head size?
Well, I don't know, but I'll find out this afternoon and check with you at home this evening. What would be a good time?
After midnight. That is, any time, sir, any time at all. Now, you must have many more important things to do, and I'll be happy to excuse you, sir, if you really have to dash away. I know how those things are. I've had things to do myself. I'm expecting someone...
Miss Brooks, I don't quite comprehend this conversational St. Vitus dance you're indulging in. But if you're always this nervous during mealtime, it's a wonder you haven't got an ulcer.
Oh, I had an ulcer, Mr. Conklin. I had a nice big one 2 years after I began teaching school.
You did? How did you get rid of it?
I just couldn't afford to keep it.
I don't know what you're so jittery about, Connie. Everything's gone swimmingly so far. Walter Denton picked up the hat for his mother during lunch period.
I know, Mrs. Davis.
And Tex Barton came over right after school to get the specially prepared one you phoned me about. My goodness, but his mother must have long ears.
You ought to see his mother's mane. I mean, those aren't the ones I'm jittery about. It's Mr. Conklin and Mr. Boynton. I promised them both that they were buying a completely original creation.
Well, they are that, Connie. The fact that they're identical shouldn't bother you. After all, Mrs. Boynton will be leaving town right after Mother's Day.
Yes, but Mr. Boynton's bringing her here tonight to pick it up, and Mr. Conklin will want his wife's hat as soon as he gives me her measurements. But if he runs into Mrs. Boynton anywhere before Sunday...
Now, calm down, dear, calm down. When do you expect the Boyntons?
Now! Now.
Well, I'll go make some tea and you let them in. Mrs. Boynton's hat is right on the hall table, Connie.
Thanks.
Well, here we are, Miss Brooks. You remember my mother.
I'll never forget her. Hello, Mrs. Boynton. Come in for a second.
How are you, Connie? It's been ages since I've seen you.
Oh, Mom couldn't wait to see her surprise, Miss Brooks.
Oh, then I'll get it for her right away. Meanwhile, just help yourself to some fruit on this hall table. That is, as soon as the sparrow gets through helping himself. That is, here's your new hat. How do you like it?
Well, it's certainly different.
Oh, I knew you'd love it. Well, now that you've seen it, I don't want to keep you and Mr. Boynton another minute. You must have lots to talk over, so don't stand on ceremonies. Just toddle right along, and I'll see you later in the week. Bye.
We're really in no great rush, Miss Brooks.
As a matter of fact, Philip suggested that we might spend the evening with you.
Oops.
I told Mom you'd jump at the idea.
I thought we'd play a few games of checkers, Connie. I'll never forget how exciting it was the last time we played. There was one crowning after another.
You ain't seen nothing yet. But I'm afraid I can't ask you to stay for checkers, Mrs. Boynton. Mrs. Davis has a splitting headache.
But, Miss Brooks, how could a game of checkers disturb Mrs. Davis?
Please, Mr. Boynton, if you were lying down with a headache, how would you like to hear someone constantly jumping in the next room? Now, if you'll just excuse me.
That's the doorbell, isn't it? Maybe Miss Brooks has another engagement, Philip. Perhaps we'd better be leaving.
I wouldn't think of letting you budge from this house. Mr. Boynton, I insist that you take your mother into the living room and let her try on her checkerboard, a fruit bowl. Here, take it with you, dear. There's a wonderful mirror near the piano.
Well, if you're sure.
Never been surer. Go along, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, very well. It's right this way, Mother.
Hi, Miss Brooks.
Walter, what are you doing here? It's 12 hours until breakfast.
I have to bring the hat back, Miss Brooks. Aren't you going to ask me in?
Not if I can help it.
Well, I'll only be a minute. It's important.
All right, but please hurry. What's the trouble, Walter?
Well, I showed my dad this hat you sold us for a centerpiece, Miss Brooks.
And he didn't like it?
Well, he's crazy about it. But he wants a slight change made. He says if you'll wire it up so we can use it as a lamp, he'll give you an extra $3.
If he'll make it $5, I'll put in a motor and he can drive it to work. Please, Walter, get into the dining room immediately. Take the hat with you, quick.
Yeah, but Miss
I'll
Brooks...
explain later. Get going.
Okay, but I wish I knew what was happening around here.
Good evening, Miss Brooks. Well, I've got my wife's head measurements on this sheet of paper.
Thanks, Mr. Conklin. Good night.
Just a moment. There are a few things I have to tell you.
Yes, sir. Come in.
Thank you. I got these measurements from the milliner with whom my wife does quite a large business. She's been going
Pardon
there
me,
for a
but
number of...
Mom would like a drink of water. Oh, hello, Mr. Conklin.
Oh, hello, Boynton.
I'll get it myself if you'll just help me. Oh, I didn't know someone was with you, Connie.
Oh, there isn't. It's just Mr. Conklin. This is Mrs. Boynton, Mr. Conklin.
How do you do, Miss? What is she doing with my wife's hat on her head?
Your wife's hat, Mr. Conklin?
Philip, you didn't buy me the same hat Mr. Conklin bought for his wife, did you?
Oh, I didn't intend to, Mother. Miss Brooks, what seems to have happened?
Shouldn't happen to a sparrow. Look, folks, there's been a slight mix-up, but I'm sure it'll come out all right by Mother's Day. After all, there are only two of you wearing the hats, and you won't be seen together anyplace.
Well, that's true enough.
You do have a point there.
There's no air in that dining room, Miss Brooks. I didn't know you had company.
Oh, this is Walter Denton, one of our pupils, Mother. Walter, this is my mother.
Glad to know you, Walter.
Same here, Mrs. Boynton. Say, what are you doing with my mother's centerpiece on your head?
Your mother's centerpiece, Denton?
Oh, hello, Mr. Conklin. Yeah, my dad and I are going to have it changed into a lamp before we give it to her, though. See, we'll put the wire right through here, and then we'll take...
So, Miss Brooks, my wife and Mrs. Boynton are the only two people with these original creations. I'd give a lot to know just who else is wearing these assembly line specials.
Oh, dear. Who is it?
What is that?
It sounded like a horse.
That's just what it is, our milkman's horse. You see, the milkman is sick, so the horse is making the rounds alone. Don't scream today, Lucy. She's very clever.
She must be, to ring the doorbell by herself. Miss Brooks, open the door.
Yes, sir.
Howdy, Miss Brooks. Lucy and I were just eloping by, so I thought I'd show you how nice she looks in her new bonnet.
But, Tetch, you shouldn't have brought her right up to the front door like this.
What is going on here? Why is this beast sticking her head... Oh, God!
wearing my wife's hat. And my mother's hat.
You mean they got the same hat she sold me for Lucy, Miss Brooks?
Yes, Tex, but it's
Shucks, if I'd have known that, I'd have never bought it. Lucy's a
fanatic on individualized apparel, I know.
Miss Brooks, just what do you propose to do about these hats?
I'm going to take them out to our backyard and put them up in a tree.
A tree?
Yes, these hats are strictly for the birds.
Returns in just a moment. Now, the case of the close scrape featuring Arthur Griffin, mail carrier. Here's what Mr. Griffin told us. Listen.
Here's exactly what happened. Shaving was just one close scrape after another for me, and then I discovered Palmolive lather shave cream and a new, different way to shave. Palmolive's oceans of rich, thick lather ended my worries about scrapes, burns, and nicks. Why, even in cold or hard water, that Palmolive lather way is super smooth, super comfortable.
Take Arthur Griffin's advice, men. The new Palmolive lather way gets beards really soft, and it provides a protective film that actually floats your razor's cutting edge. You get a clean, close shave every time without worry about scraping or nicking, even in cold or hard water. Arthur Griffin and 1,200 other men tested Palmolive lather cream following package directions, and 3 out of 4 reported smoother, more comfortable shaves the Palmolive shave cream way, no matter how they shaved before.
Better get Palmolive lather shave cream. Remember, even in cold or hard water, the Palmolive lather way means smoother, more comfortable shaves.
Now, once again, here is Eve Arden.
What would you do to protect your family and yourself in case of a sudden atom bomb attack? It may never happen, but it could. Remember, you can survive an atom bomb attack if you know what to do. Get a copy of the official air raid instructions from your local civil defense organization. Or write to Superintendent of Documents, Washington, D.C., enclosing 5 cents in coin or stamps. Learn the instructions by heart and see that everyone in your family does, too. Be smart, be prepared.
This is Vern Smith reminding you to tune in next week to another Our Miss Brooks show brought to you by Palmolive Shave Cream for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, and Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis and Arthur Alsberg, with the music of Wilbur Hatch.
Listen to this. With Marvelous Vel, V-E-L, you can save 90% of dishwashing work.
A quick soak in Vel Suds gets dishes and glassware shiny clean. Even if a bit of food should cling, a touch with a dishcloth gets rid of it fast.
Yes, Vel's activated suds lift off and carry away food and grease. So all dishes need is a quick rinse and they dry sparkling without washing or wiping.
All pots and pans need is a soaking with Vel Suds. Then you can wash them shiny clean without hard scouring.
What's more, Vel is a miracle of mildness. So get new Vel. Save 90% of dishwashing work.
Our Miss Brooks came to you transcribed.